Strategy Simplified. It's Japheth here, really quickly popping in to let you know that prices for several of our coaching packages are going up on November 21st. So if you've been thinking about joining a management consultant coaching program, there's no better time than right now because, like I said, on November 21st, prices will go up for these 4 packages: 1-hour coaching, 4-hour coaching, 8-hour coaching, and 20-hour coaching. So whether you're recruiting right now or you are months out, now is the best time to join to lock in the best rates. Link in the show notes to learn more and join today. Welcome back to Strategy Simplified. I'm really looking forward to bringing you today's conversation with Olivia Rosenlund, who landed a BCG associate offer from a non-business background. So Olivia is not a business major, so she went through a non-traditional route to land this offer, which I know is where a lot of you find yourself in. You didn't get a business or economics major, you have a non-traditional background, and you're trying to figure out how can you break into consulting. But listening to Olivia's story today is a good first step. She shares a lot of really useful tips on networking, to how to show up the best way in an interview, to overcoming mistakes in an interview, and just so much more. It's really packed with a lot of good stuff, and I hope you take notes. If you enjoyed this conversation, we'd love for you to leave a rating and a review for us on whichever podcast platform you're listening from to help us reach more listeners. Thank you, as always, for being a listener, and I'm really excited to bring you this episode with Olivia Rosenlund. Olivia Rosenlund, welcome to Strategy Simplified. Excited to have you on the podcast today. Where does today's call find you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm in San Francisco today.
Okay, beautiful Bay Area. Well, I'm excited to connect. Let's just dive right into it, why don't we? Can you kick us off just by sharing a little bit about who you are, your background, post landing this BCG offer?
Yeah, absolutely. And just once again, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to share a little bit more about my background and my journey to BCG, and hopefully help out some people who are stuck in recruiting right now. So just a little bit about me. I just graduated from Notre Dame a few months ago with a double major in math and economics. But I'm originally from San Francisco, but my mom and her entire extended family are from the Midwest, which is kind of how I ended up in South Bend, Indiana for the past 4 years. But I'm going to be joining BCG Chicago's office as an associate starting in January. So I've just been home and interning for management consultant in the meantime, which has been super fun. But I am excited to head back to the Midwest in the new year, even if it will be absolutely freezing. So when I was at Notre Dame, I participated in some econ research, volunteering, and was an active member of a consulting club on campus. And I also worked for Visa in San Francisco the summer after my sophomore year, which definitely was a great experience and set me up really well for BCG. So that's a little bit about my background, kind of the boring stuff you could say, but in my free time, I really like being active. So I've been a tennis player my whole life, and like to play a lot in my free time. And I also love like yoga, hiking, going on walks with friends. So yeah, it's a little bit about me.
That's awesome. Sounds like you got a lot going on, and you'll have a lot more going on once you start at BCG, but huge congrats on the offer, and really excited again for the conversation just to dig into that. Before we dig into kind of your recruiting journey, can you share a little bit about what drew you to consulting? Like, how did you discover it? I think a lot of folks are asking similar questions, right? Is consulting right for me? How do I know if it's right for me? So can you just share just a little bit of your kind of thinking behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of had an interesting route to consulting just because I wasn't a business major, and Notre Dame has a business school. So most of the people that I was casing with and going through recruiting with had kind of known about consulting for a long time, and I feel like knew what they were doing. And so that was a little bit intimidating for me because I knew nothing. There were a lot of terms like break even and profit margin and compound annual growth rate that I'd literally never heard in my life. which was intimidating at first until I kind of realized that they're like fancy ways of describing very, very simple things.
Yeah.
So I kind of got into it because a friend actually recommended me to join a consulting club on campus. When you're a math major, you kind of have two routes. You either become a literal mathematician or a professor, and I knew I wasn't really interested in either of those things. So I was looking for other things to go into. And I think what drew me to consulting is just being able to just explore so many different industries and get to know lots of different clients. I feel like it gives you a really good base to kind of jump off of when you feel like you really understand what it is you want to do. So I'm excited.
Okay, that's awesome. So you don't have to be a business major to go into consulting. Good to know. A
No,
lot of
definitely
folks come to
not.
us. A lot of people with all sorts of abstract backgrounds come to us going, "Can I do this?" In fact, we just had an oil painting major land an offer at McKinsey recently. One of our Black Belt members. So, if an oil painting major can do it, the door's wide open.
That's awesome. Definitely.
Alrighty. Well, you mentioned you landed the BCG associate offer. Can you just start us off by walking through that timeline from kind of initial interest all the way through the getting that offer? A lot of folks have questions around how long does this take? Oftentimes it's longer or shorter than they might think. So I think just bringing a little bit of color to that will be helpful.
Definitely. Well, to start off, I will say that I had a bit of a non-traditional route to BCG. I did BCG Advance, which is a virtual program offered to women at the end of their sophomore year. So I believe I applied in February of my sophomore year and then had to do a resume submission and a one-way interview before I received an invitation to Advance in March. And the great thing about Advance is that if you do it and complete it, then you're automatically offered a first round interview afterwards, which is definitely great if you know that BCG is a place that you want to work. So the program took place in April, I think. And then I had my first round interview for the internship role. It was just a couple of days after I finished my finals, which I remember being really stressful at the time, but it all worked out. So that was in May. And then I received an invitation for a final round interview just a few days later. And that took place in June. So just around a month later. So thankfully that gave me plenty of time to case prep, which was really nice. I think it would have been more difficult to just have it be a really fast turnaround. But I do remember this being one of the busiest months of my life since, like I said previously, I had a full-time internship at Visa at the time, and I had a really long commute. So I would wake up at 6:30 every day and then get home at around 6:30 or 7 every day. And then I would run practice cases until 9 and then eat dinner and go to bed. And that was my whole day for maybe 3 weeks straight. So very stressful at the time, but ended up being worth it. So I had that final round offer in June and then accepted the offer and chose not to recruit anywhere else. So I only interviewed at BCG just because I loved it and I knew that was where I wanted to be. So I highly recommend Advance if you're someone who knows that's you would be happy just accepting a BCG offer. It's a really great place to work. So I highly recommend it. And yeah, all in all, my recruiting process took a few months, but I will say it was a bit of a unique process for me.
Absolutely. And now here, 2-ish years later, you're prepping for full-time. So, right, your junior year summer, you did the internship, and right now you graduated and you're getting ready to go in. We'll link to more information about BCG Advance in the show notes. But yeah, I echo what you said. If you are eligible, if you can, definitely apply. You really have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So it's an awesome opportunity to kind of get in early with BCG and the other MBB firms and a bunch of other top boutiques run similar programs. So definitely check that out. Okay. Well, we talked about the timeline. Let's dive a little bit deeper. Can you share a couple of action steps, let's call it 3, that led you to that offer? What are the kind of the 3 kind of main pieces you'd point to that said that say, this is why you're able to land that offer?
Mm-hmm. Well, just for, I guess, more concrete action step, I think I mentioned this earlier, but I joined a consulting club at my school at Notre Dame, and this was really, really helpful in helping me find people to case with. I would say that I made so many friends that were interested in the exact same roles as me, and because I was a non-business major, it was really helpful to be around people who were really well-versed in the world of consulting and in recruiting. And just like I said, being around people who kind of knew what they were doing a little bit more was really helpful to get me involved. And usually the projects were led by people who were older. And I remember actually both of my project leaders from my first consulting project ended up working at Bain. And so it was really helpful to have them as resources and be like, hey, what's your advice? Can I practice case with you? Stuff like that. So that was kind of a within Notre Dame networking experience in itself. And I know that most schools have those clubs. So I would recommend joining those because you work on projects that really simulate a real consulting case. And at least at Notre Dame, you work with a team of real consultants at these firms. So my first project was a Bain project, and I worked and got to network with consultants at Bain. So that was a super valuable experience. And then I would say second action step was just running so many cases with a really wide variety of people. Definitely don't just case with the same exact person over and over again, because the interviewer that you get in the real interview will likely have a very different interviewing style from whoever it is that you just had case you over and over again. I think I even had my mom case me at one point just to get a different perspective on the whole thing. So yeah, definitely and don't be afraid to ask people either. The odds that they need help too are very high. So just don't be afraid to ask people for help. And then I would say the third action step, and probably the most important in my opinion, was I tried to do everything I could to be as confident as possible going into the interview. I had a networking call with a BCG consultant the day before my interview, and her main piece of advice to me was this, and I really was not expecting this. She was like, okay, 5 to 10 minutes before your interview, I want you to blast your favorite song and dance around your room to literally get all of your nerves out so that you are as confident as possible going into that call. And I was like, what? I was really not expecting her to say that. But you know what? It was I did it and it worked. And I promise you'll log onto that call with a smile on your face. You really, going into these interviews, you want to be the kind of person that other people want to be around. And yeah, I would say that was probably the most important action step that I took.
I love that last piece of advice there from the BCG consultant. That's awesome. I think, I love that. And also, like what you said about be someone that other people want to be around, right? Consulting is a people business, and people want to be around people they like. So, right, it stacks the odds a little bit more in your favor if you can just be yourself, right? Show up fun, show up just authentically you. I love that. Well, those are 3 very great, tangible action steps. And right, I think super helpful. If you have access to a consulting club, take advantage of that as you can. You'll find some great people to case with, some great resources, etc. Do you want to work for a fast-growing M&A consulting and advisory firm? Then Palmtree is the place to be. Palmtree is a firm that's experienced incredible growth in recent years, even in the midst of the global economic slowdown, and hiring just keeps marching on. If you're currently an employee at a top accounting or advisory firm seeking to break into the M&A industry, or you're a student interested in learning about the M&A lifecycle, consider Palmtree. Join the firm's upward trajectory and help shape the future of M&A advisory. If interested, learn more and apply on the firm's careers page, palmtreellc.com, or you'll find the link in this episode's show notes. Speaking of resources, of course, you mentioned kind of that the networking through Notre Dame, to the consulting club. Are there any other resources or tools that you found to be really helpful in your prep?
Yeah, I would say that I kind of networked with as many people as I could just to gather advice. So, like I said, this was really important to me just coming from a non-business background. I really wanted to make sure I had a good grasp on what I was doing before I entered these interviews. I didn't want to miss anything. And so when I was doing those consulting projects, I think I reached out to every single one of the Bain employees that we were working with, which I don't think anyone else did. And at first I was like, am I being annoying? But no, like they, especially if they went to your school, they're going to want to help you succeed. And so I had so many different calls with people just asking, what's your number one piece of advice for the interview and what can I do to prepare? And I think I got a lot of really great, valuable information from that. And I would say my second most helpful resource or tool that I used was just finding practice casebooks from a ton of different schools. Notre Dame has a consulting division at the Career Center that provided us with these casebooks, but you can also just look them up. So you can just look up like casebooks from most top universities with solid business programs. Like you could probably look up Notre Dame Business School casebook and something like a PDF will pop up. And those were super helpful in just running practice cases before my interview.
Yeah. I want to double down just a little bit on the networking piece. You mentioned you had a ton of calls. In the email, what was, or the LinkedIn message, whatever that was, what was your request? And do you have any sort of wisdom or advice to share? Because I think people, right, just get a little bit stuck when they're thinking about networking and what do I say? How do I ask for a call, right? Like, this is awkward. Do they want to talk to me? All those sorts of thoughts are running through their head. So I'll give you the floor there for a sec.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that people get very scared sending out networking emails. And I totally get it because it's intimidating, especially when you're a college student and you're like, these people are out in the real world. Like, what if they don't want to talk to me? And I think especially if they went to your school, people are going to want to help you out. And there's a book, and I think it's called How to Make Friends and Influence People. It's a very popular book. And I remember reading it, and the first piece of advice that they say is that people love talking about themselves. Like, people love being asked questions and like talking about their life and giving advice to others. And I think that people underestimate the power of asking questions to other people. And so, I mean, for me, I've had a lot of people actually reach out to me asking for networking calls after I got my offer, because, they wanted to know, like, how did I get the offer? Do I have any advice? And I don't think I ever saw one of those emails or LinkedIn messages and was like, oh, like, I don't want to talk to this person. Like, I don't have time for that. I think I always thought like, oh, that's so nice that they kind of admire what I did and want to hear more about my journey. And I think I was like more flattered, if anything. So I think that, just don't just go around like cold emailing people that you have zero connection to is what I would say. But as long as you have some sort of connection, just, be nice and respectful in your email and say like, I really admire that you're in this role and I want to do the same thing. And I just wanted to know if you have any advice. And, don't ask for some like super grandiose request. Just ask for like a short 15-minute call, or even just like an email exchange or anything like that is helpful.
Yeah. I love that. That's such a great perspective to have going into these sorts of conversations that can be a little bit intimidating. But they're most people are going to be on your side, and they want to help. People want to help people. So I love the thoughts and perspectives you shared there, Olivia. Really helpful.
Thank you.
Amazing. Okay. Is there one kind of misconception that you had about consulting or the consulting recruiting process, that looking back, you're like, oh, that was different, or that was not what I expected? Yeah. Any misconceptions around the process?
Yeah, and I think that this kind of goes back to my number one piece of casing advice that I like to give people, which is that casing is half what you say and half how you say it. And what I mean by that is that people have this misconception that you have to get 100% of the case right in order to get an offer. And I would say that that's not entirely true. I think, of course, you want to be like striving for that, but I think people beat themselves up even if they get just one little detail wrong in their case. And I would say that the way that you respond to those sort of mistakes that you make is significantly more important than striving for perfection. So it kind of reminds me, when I was in my final round BCG interview, I remember I did the math wrong, and I really did the math wrong. And I was so embarrassed because I was like, I'm literally a math major. Like, if anyone should be doing this right, it should be me in theory. So I definitely was like upset with myself. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been doing practice mental math for so long. And of course, during the interview, I blow it. But instead of, freaking out or getting frustrated or rattled, I smiled and I laughed and I tried again, and I got it right the next time around. And clearly that didn't prevent me from getting an offer.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say if this happens to you, the way you choose to react to that mistake might actually be the reason a firm decides to hire you. Because as a consultant, you're bound to make mistakes. Like, in the real job, you're not going to get everything 100% right. And if you just keep beating yourself up for it, you might actually end up going in a worse direction. So I would say that people just get, in the recruiting process, just get way too obsessed with being perfect. And I would say that can actually lead you down the wrong path sometimes.
So good. I feel like we just need a moment of silence to acknowledge the wisdom there. Yeah. Striving for perfection is not going to be your friend. And that's just great life advice and wisdom there as well. Olivia, really appreciate your timeless wisdom there. So
Thank you.
I'm benefiting from it, as well as I know the folks listening to this episode.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, amazing. All right. Well, I want to know one thing that you're really looking forward to about starting full time at the BCG, besides minus 20 degrees winter in Chicago.
Yeah. I would say that I'm really excited to travel. I didn't get the chance to travel last summer when I was an intern, even though some of my intern friends did. So I'm really looking forward to getting that experience when I start full time. And it's fun because for most cases, you just go wherever the client is. So you could really be sent anywhere in the country. And the dream is that you get a client based somewhere cool, like New York City or Boston or San Francisco or something like that. But, I also could be sent to a city in the middle of nowhere and just don't know where it's going to take me. So I would say I'm really excited for that. And I'm also just excited to see what the job is really like. I feel like, especially for me, having done that recruiting process really early, it's definitely been a long time coming. Because I did that recruiting over, I think, 2.5 years ago now. So it's kind of crazy that it's finally happening, and that I'm actually about to do the real thing. So I know I'm going to regret saying this in a couple months, but I'm excited to see how it feels to work hard and stay in the office late with my team and just get the real experience that I've been hearing about for so long. And I know it's going to be hard and it's going to be hard work, but I'm excited to get started.
Yeah. I bet you're getting a little antsy. Yeah, the waiting process after getting the offer is often so long. So, yeah, excited for you to get your boots on the ground with that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I can't wait.
All right. Well, final question before we get into a couple of fun questions to end this here. I mean, these questions have all been fun, but a little extra. So, any final words of wisdom or advice for people right currently in the recruiting process or planning to be, in the next little bit?
Definitely. I think that like I've touched on a few times already, it's a lot more about your hard work and your attitude. And if you're interested in one of these consulting roles, you're probably already a hard worker and probably already have the skills that you need to land an offer. So definitely just don't compare yourself to everybody else. If you're a painting major or a math major or even a consulting major. We had a consulting major at Notre Dame, which I didn't know existed until I got there. But I would say no matter what your background is, if you're interested in one of these roles, it probably means that you're qualified in some way, shape, or form. So just don't get too caught up by what everyone else is doing, and just make sure you're being yourself going in. And like I said, don't beat yourself up too much in the process, because I promise it'll all work out. And even if you don't land an offer at an MBB firm or even any consulting firm, that's just pointing you in the right direction to where you're really supposed to be.
Love that. Love that. Okay. You ready for a couple of rapid fire fun questions?
Oh gosh. Yes, I'm ready.
Cool. All right. Top moment or memory from your BCG summer?
Ooh, that's a good question. Definitely the final intern dinner. So at the end of the summer, everyone got together for a last dinner together. BCG took us to like a nice restaurant in Chicago, and all the interns like went out afterwards, and it was just a nice way to connect with all the friends I'd made that summer, and we all were kind of reminiscing on memories we'd made and all the work that we'd done. So that was definitely a top moment for me.
Love that. All right. You mentioned you're excited about the travel. What is one place on your travel bucket list?
Oh gosh, I have so many. I would
Give us two.
say that too. Well, the number one place I really want to go is Copenhagen. I've been wanting to go there for a long time, and I will end up going there most likely through BCG, but although that would be really cool. I studied abroad in London my junior year, actually, and I went to so many places and got to see so many countries throughout Europe, and that was a great experience. But the number one place I regretted not going while I was there was Copenhagen. I just heard so many good things about it. It seemed like such a fun city, and my dad's whole side of the family is actually from Norway. Like my grandpa grew up there, and so I still have a ton of family there. So I've been there like so many times at this point, just visiting family, but I've never actually gone to other parts of Scandinavia, like Stockholm, Copenhagen, Finland, stuff like that. So I would love to see those places.
Oh, that's amazing. Europe holds so much beauty and amazing culture.
Totally.
Amazing. Okay, Olivia. Well, thank you for sharing your story, your wisdom, your insights, and we wish you nothing but the best at BCG, and we'll have to bring you on in a year or two for an update on how things are going at the firm.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Olivia. Didn't she drop some gold nuggets? Such good stuff in there. If you have any questions about consulting, recruiting, interview prep, networking, etc., we'd love to help. We've got programs, we've got free resources. Check it out, managementconsultant.com. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you on another episode soon.